Do you find yourself always looking for a way to get more time? There seems like never enough time. Time is always a problem to get anything done at work or even in your own home life, in your personal life. There's never enough time. Trying to get those jobs done, trying to get all the tasks that you got in front of you done today. But there's not but 8, 12 hours a day, maybe. Even if there was all 24 hours, there's not enough time to do all this. What am I going to do? How can I get all this work done? I don't know. But yes, there is an answer, and that's by prioritizing and properly using time management. Time management is the best way to get those jobs done. And in this video, we're going to talk about just that. In this video, I just want to give you some tips on good time management, on how to get the jobs done, especially the high priority tasks that you have in front of you. Now, of course, everything starts with a plan, and in time management is no different. Planning is the answer to how to get those tasks done. Planning is knowing where you want to go, exactly how long to get there, and what you have to do to get there. For the next several minutes, I'm going to give you some tips on how to manage your time. It all starts with actually planning. And the best way to plan is to get going right off at the beginning of the new year and sit down and write out what is it that you plan to do this year. What are your goals this year? Now, that may seem like a little bit sidetracked from time management, but really it isn't. If you know where you want to go, then you'll do everything you can to get there. Every project has a list of tasks that must be done. The obvious goal in mind for every project is to get to the end, to finish the project. And so in order to finish it, you have a series of tasks that have to be completed. Every day you will have tasks to do. And if you do those tasks, it keeps you on track to meeting the timelines in order to get to the end of the project. When you sit down and write down out your plan, not only do you write out for the whole year, but maybe each quarter, but each month, each week, and yes, even each day of what tasks that you have in front of you. And every day you're adding even more tasks to the list. The best way to handle your tasks is on the night before the next day. I often start off with Sunday in the evening, and I write out for the whole week pretty much the tasks that I plan to have done for the week. They're generalized, but at least I know by the end of the week, these things will be done. I'm going to have a certain number of videos completed by the end of the week. I'm going to complete a certain project task by the end of the week, such as writing a drainage report. I'm going to have to finish my traffic reports, and I need to make sure that the team completes all the designs so I can submit the drainage report or the traffic reports, the soils reports, or what have you, that support the supporting documents are all completed by the end of the week. That's my first list of tasks. Now, I look at what has to be done on Monday morning, tomorrow. It's Sunday, I look at tomorrow, Monday. So in order to have a certain task done for tomorrow, I have a list of maybe 10, 20, 30 items that has to be done. Now that I have a list of all these tasks that have to be done, not only for one project, but numerous other projects I may have that I'm working on, I sit down and do the first tip. That is to prioritize all of my tasks. And we use a system called the ABCDE priority list. Now, most of us are pretty much aware of the ABC priority list, but the ABCDE may be a little bit different. So let's go over that really quickly here. I first look at all the tasks I have for the next day, and I write out which of those items fits in the A category. The A categories are the ones that absolutely must be done, or there's serious consequences if I don't do them. That may be that I may fall behind on the timeline as a serious consequence, or it may be that the client wants it done by tomorrow, and he can't wait till the next day. That makes it a consequence of if I don't do it, I'm hurting him. I'm delaying his schedule also. So that's an example of a priority A item that must be done that day. Then I look at how many A items I have on my tasks. Well, I can't do all these A's in one day, maybe. Or which one do I do first? Well, I got to look at the highest priority of the A group, and that becomes my A1 task. That's the one I'm going to do the first thing in the morning, and I'll work on it till it's done. Then I'll look at the next one, which is the A2 task. The A2 task is to be done also tomorrow, but immediately after I finish the A1, and so on and so on. My next group of categories for tasks is the B group. The B groups are the ones who need to be done tomorrow, but the consequences of not having it done tomorrow is not as grave as in the A category. It can wait till the next day, although I want to get it done tomorrow. So these items are in your B category. You don't even touch those until you get all of the A items done. Once all your A items are done, then you move on to the B's. And again, you're looking at B1, B2, and etc. The third group is the C. We're all familiar with it. The C group is ones that don't have to be done tomorrow, and if I don't do them tomorrow, they have no real consequences if I don't do it tomorrow. So those can be put off to the side if need be until maybe a further day down. Or if I find time tomorrow after I completed all of my A's and B's, I can then work on my C, which then kind of puts me a little bit ahead of my schedules. And again, you would do a C1, C2, C3. Your next category is what's known as the D tasks. These are the tasks that, I could do them, but there's other people in the office can also do it. So if I know everyone else is on the teams, they're scheduled for tomorrow, I can push this task on over to one of my other teammates that can also do it, or someone who is has the capabilities of doing it, but they're not really used to it. It can be a learning experience for them, a growth potential for them. So we delegate, and that's what the D stands for, to delegate the task out to someone else, either on the team or even to someone outside the team. You can outsource it to someone else. That's your D task. You may find that I'm really busy. I got too many drainage studies to do, technical drainage studies. So I'm going to get me a third party to write the technical drainage study for me and get them to finish it, so I don't have to spend so much time on that. I can work on other items in the office that are A tasks for me. So that's a delegation outward. Your next group of tasks is what we call E's. The E tasks are the ones that you can eliminate. These have no consequences whether you do them or not. They have no importance whatsoever. It may be to go play golf. Okay, all you golf enthusiasts out there, I hate to say that, but if it doesn't have really any importance to you reaching your goals, you don't need to be doing it. You can spend the time playing golf. You could be spending time completing work or other jobs that leads you to your goals of either finishing projects or other goals, personal or financial goals that you may have. So that's one example, but there's so many others. It may be spend a 2-hour lunch versus a 30-minute lunch or an hour lunch, or it could be socializing with a friend of yours for an hour today. Those things that during work hours are not necessarily a good thing to do. You can always socialize with a friend after work hours or even on the weekends, but to affect the work hours, the 8-10 hours a day, is not probably a priority, and so therefore it's an E task and it can be eliminated. The second tip that I have for you is to manage that time, knowing how long these priorities take. Okay, when you write out all those tasks and you put A's and B's and C's on them and D's and E's, the next thing you want to do is also put some time. How long you think it will take you to finish this task? Writing technical drainage reports, for me at least, takes several days to write. And so I have to actually break the technical drainage study down to smaller parts, like running calculations, street flow capacity analysis, or I have to actually write the text out. It takes a period of time to write these reports. So those can be broken down further, and I look at how long it takes me to write. I know to write a technical drainage study for me, just to write the report itself, usually takes me about 3 to 4 hours straight writing, and that's taking from our template drainage study and then filling in the blanks for this specific drainage study that I'm working on. So that gives me a timeline of how long it takes to do that. If it takes you longer than that, then you might should adjust your future task time, so that way you know that it may take a little longer, or maybe take a little less to do those tasks. Once you've given a time for each of those tasks that you plan to do for the day, then you look at, well, do I have enough hours in the day to do all of those? 8, 10 hours, 12 hours, and then you still got more A tasks to do. Well, then you might need to get some help, because you're not going to be able to do all your A's. A's, remember, are the ones that has to be done that day, or else there's some serious consequences going to happen. So you have to get help, and that's why you need to know how long it takes to do each one of those tasks. The next tip is to delegate. I know we already discussed a little bit about delegating in the ABCDE method, but there is a reason for delegating out your task and the things that you're doing throughout the day. First of all, it relieves you of time. It gives you time to work on other items, high priority items that only you can work on. So when you delegate things out to someone else, that allows them to fill in their timelines with work to do. If you keep that work instead, and you only want to do all the tasks yourself, you'll quickly run out of time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and you got to sleep somewhere in there. So you got to delegate some of these items out. That's why we have design teams. If we could do all the CAD work ourselves and all the report writing ourselves and all the running around that we have to do to meet the various people to get the information that we need to all by ourselves, we wouldn't need a design team to go with us. We don't need any leadership. We just need to motivate ourselves. Well, that's not what's happening here. You are going to have to delegate. Other people need to know how to do the job that you do. So that's the other reason that it's important to delegate. It allows someone to grow. It allows them to get expand their knowledge on how to do other things in this industry besides just the specific job that they're working on. If you hand over to someone that's normally a CAD designer that sits there and draws and designs plans, and then you hand to them and say, I'd like for you also to sketch out some drainage structures for me, then he's going to be out of his comfort zone just a little bit, but at the same time, he's going to learn a little bit more about what you do. And eventually, these individuals, as you teach them and guide them and give them more and more work, they eventually grow up to the point where they know enough to do your job. Why would you want them to do your job? Well, because the reason there's jobs ahead of you, above you, that you want to do. You can never move up if you don't train anybody below you to replace you. So it's important to train these individuals below you to eventually someone or a few of those individuals will be able to replace you. And then you can replace one of your managers above yourself. So that's why it's important to delegate, to help grow people, to grow them in their professional life, and to expand their knowledge base. The next tip in time management is the phone, okay? I can't believe how many times my phone rings throughout the day. It is probably 30, 40, I don't know how many times. It's constantly ringing. But I'm not paid to sit here and answer phone calls all day. That's not my job so much as doing the actual engineering work or the management work that I do to make sure that the tasks are completed and that we complete our projects. So we have to manage are phone calls. So why is that necessary? Every time I answer a phone, I'm guaranteed at least 5 to 10 minutes on that phone call. It doesn't take long, 4 or 5 calls, and that's an hour. And you get a few more, there's several hours just on phone calls. So we need to learn to manage our phone calls. And that goes 2 ways. One, we should only be answering phone calls during a certain time of the day. Otherwise, just let them go to voicemail, because there they can leave a message, and then your allotted time for answering phones in a day, let's say it may be 1 hour for lunch, and so you spend that 1 hour going through your voicemails, and you answer all the phone calls during that time, and then you may spend maybe again around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right before we get off at work, maybe that last hour of the day, you go through your voicemails again and answer all the calls. So that way you have 2 times you've answered during the day. And if they don't answer, well, you just leave a message, hey, I returned your phone call. Please get back a hold of me tomorrow between this time and that time. And then that was the next thing that we should do with phone calls. And that is to let our clients, our people who try to contact us, know what time we answer phone calls. And that's usually say, I like to answer my phones between this time and this time. If you call during that time, I more than likely will be available to answer the phone. If you call outside these times, I'm probably going to be in a scheduled an event or a meeting or something that I'm not going to be available to answer the phone call. You're going to have to leave a voicemail, and I'll get back to you later in the day. So make sure, though, you get back to everybody who leaves you a message. The other thing you want to do, the third thing, is when you get on the phone, you want to be directly into the topic. You don't want to be spending time talking about family life and everything else, pet dogs or road racing, whatever. You want to actually deal with the subject of the call and get it over with as quickly as possible. Remember, your time's limited, and your client's time should also be limited. So make sure that you let them know offhand, right up the top of the phone call, says, look, I only got a few minutes. I see that you gave me a call. You left a message. Can you please tell me a little bit about what it was? They'll explain this is what I need to know. You say, fine, this is the answer. This is how we take care of that. If you want, I can get back with you on some additional information, and I'll send it to you in an email. And they'll say, great. And so you've done your part, and you completed the whole phone call within maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and you're done with it, and you can move on to the next one. Each one answering quickly and moving on. It's not rude or anything like that. It's just that your time is very limited. And in fact, clients like to know that your time is limited, because that means you're a busy person, and it means you're highly sought after, and they know they got to get their information into you quickly so that you can get the answers to them. It's not rude at all to do it. So the next tip that we have is that you got to get your clients to move from phone calls, basically, and get them into using emails and text messaging. That is probably one of the best things to do in our business. Is if you can get it short, clearly state what the statement is, and state it in a text message or an email. The other reason for that is, of course, it's documented. It's something you can put into your project folder. You can show, I received this text message or this email on this specific date and time. This is what they were looking for, and this is how we responded to it. We got all these items done, and you send an email back saying you did all those things, or you're given the schedule, when you will have them done. It's all documented. It's all right there in the project. So it makes a great item for the project folder, and it keeps clarity all the way through the project. So clients like that, especially developers, especially contractors, because it's a paper trail. Everybody knows what everyone has been asking for or what they're requesting, and you have a document showing that. If you're asking for an additional fee for something, you have a document to show that they authorize you to do it, and you also let them know it was outside the scope of the contract, or it was an additional cost item in the contract, and that you will be charging an additional fee for it, do you agree? And if they send back a message saying, yes, I agree, they've contracted you. So that's another reason for using the email systems and other ways of documenting what's going on in the project. You're doing phone calls, unless you've got some sort of way to dictate those phone calls and get both parties to agree after the phone call, there's no documentation what they said to you nor what you said to them. There's nothing contractual about it. And so that's the reason why you want to go use emails, okay, and try to get them away from the phone as much as possible, except maybe to every once in a while they have a little voice communication with one another. The next tip that I really have is learn to say no, but politely say no, but say no. So many times as engineers, we like saying, yes, I can do this, I can do that. I know I can do this task really quickly. Well, I want to affect my schedule very much. I can whip out an answer really quick within 10, 15 minutes and give it to you, and I'm done. Well, usually whatever you're doing for somebody like that, it's taking up time. And if you're especially doing something that's outside of work, that you're promising somebody to do them, like I'll pick you up and take you over to the grocery store and bring you back to the house later, even though it may take 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes of your day, you can do it during your lunch hour. It always seems to take a little longer than what you anticipated, and guaranteed it'll run into your time at work. And so now you're doing something for somebody, and it just doesn't work out right. So learn to say no. Even in the office, you only have so much time, and so if you're fully busy, you're booked out 100% for the day, and someone comes along and asks you to do a task for them, and you got to explain to them, says, look, I don't have the time. But you can offer them a suggestion. Say, well, I don't have the time, but I know so-and-so over here, he's looking for some things to do, and he's just as capable as I am at completing that task. Why don't you bring it over to him, and he should be able to help you out really easily. Or you can even say, I'm really busy right now. Can this wait till tomorrow? Tomorrow I have a few hours in my schedule that looks like I don't have anything to do. Can you bring it over then, and I can take care of it at that time? Is that acceptable? If they say yes, well, then it's good. If they say no, I got to get it done now, well, I don't have the time, I'm going to have to bring it to someone else. Or you're going to have to excuse me for not doing one of these tasks, which is going to have a major consequences with all the other projects and put us all behind to handle your task, which you want me to do. So that's the reason why you have to learn to say no. I can't really do that right now, but I do know someone else. So that's a word that all of us need to learn, and throughout our daily lives. Every once in a while, you got to have some time to yourself. You can't be working all the time. So learning to say no is a good thing. The next tip is probably one that you probably not have heard of before, but for us engineers, every once in a while, I do like to go on what's called an in-office vacation. It's not a real vacation, but it is a vacation from the phone calls and everybody else. Everybody in the office knows when I go on a vacation, because I have a room that I go to that I close the door in, and nobody even knows I'm around. I don't take phone calls. I don't take any messages, nothing during that time. And the purpose of that vacation is so I can concentrate on completing a certain task. It may take me an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, what have you, but as much time as I need to complete that task, because it's absolutely priority and it has to be done. And then when I come out, even if it takes me a couple of days to get this done, that task is done and it's out of the way. So if I stayed in my office and work like I normally do with all the interruptions of people calling and people coming in and out of the office, what would take maybe only a couple hours to do with no interruptions, well, now it may end up taking the whole day in and out of various tasks that I'm working at to complete the job. These are in-office vacations, or just quiet time, basically, to get away from everybody and just concentrate on getting numerous tasks done within a day or maybe even 2 days, and then you can come back in fully refreshed, caught up with your work, and you're able to get back on track. So every once in a while, an in-office vacation is an excellent tip to use by all of us. The last tip I have for time management is not holding meetings unless you absolutely have to have a meeting. And one thing that's happened since this whole pandemic has occurred in the world is that we have learned to use virtual meetings, and those are probably the biggest time savers I've ever had. Go to meetings, Zoom calls, whatever, Google Meets. It's saved a lot of time. But even then, do you really need to have those meetings? It's always a question. Most items that can be covered in a meeting can actually be covered in a good project management tool where you can get your team members on the same project management tool, and then we can write notes back and forth to one another and having a discussion while we're working on several tasks. We can also answer notes on the computer and have a kind of a meeting without having the meeting. So these are an archaic thing to have, is meetings, and so we try not to do them as much as possible and only having meetings when necessary. And that's when all other forms of communication really don't work for you, and that you need to sit down and actually have a face-to-face talk with someone to get the right information or to make sure everyone's on the same point. Otherwise, you don't really necessarily need them. Virtual meetings are probably the best option unless you are all working in the same building or the same office close to one another within a few feet. You don't want to do a virtual meeting for that, but you can have a simple in-office meeting. But with you having like a county meeting or a city meeting or a client meeting that's out of state or what have you, virtual meetings are probably the best thing for that. And they're timed. And what's also good about virtual meetings is that you can record them, and then with the recording, you can download that into a program that will give you a hard copy of the discussion with everybody labeled and what they said during the meeting. So there's a documentation involved here. So, which of course is important with any meeting, is to document what was said, what was decided, what was the agreements, and then to send that document back out and make sure everybody that was there to sign off on it, saying, yeah, that is what was said. And if not, to kind of like say, no, this is what I meant, to make sure everyone's on the same page. Virtual meetings are very good for that because they're recorded. Time management wise, try to keep your meetings few as you can, okay? And try not to do lengthy meetings. When you do have them, try to keep them short, concise, get to the point, get to the answer, and then everybody get back to work. That's our final tip in time management. I know you've gotten value out of our video. We've covered a lot of different tips here on time management. If you put these into practice, you're going to find that you're going to have more time to do things and probably get more tasks completed. More tasks completed means you can get your projects back on schedule, keep them in line, and if you do have extra time, you can actually go out and get another project or two and fill in those gaps. So time management is actually one of the most important things that we can do in our daily work lives, time management. That's just a few tips on time management, and probably some of the most important ones, because they're going to save you a lot of time. So please go ahead down over here to the side and subscribe to our channel. And also please go up there and watch that next video that's coming up on the business of engineering. This is the video that we made just for you. So until the next time, we'll see you.